This African city had more gold than Paris, then vanished. Imagine a city so wealthy its merchants wore Chinese silk and ate from Persian porcelain while most of Europe lived in wooden huts. City with towering stone palaces, intricate mosques, and indoor plumbing in the 1300s. This wasn't in Europe or Asia. This was Kilwa, an African metropolis on the Swahili Coast that controlled the gold trade of the Indian Ocean. A city that was, for a time, richer and more sophisticated than Paris. And then it was almost completely erased from history. Let's journey back to an island off the coast of modern-day Tanzania. This is where the story of Kilwa Kisiwani, or Kilwa on the island, unfolds. From the 11th to the 15th centuries, this city-state rose from a small trading post to become the most powerful and opulent hub in a network of coastal trading centers, known as the Swahili Coast. This wasn't just a city. It was the capital of a maritime empire, the gatekeeper of Africa's immense wealth. The source of Kilwa's unimaginable wealth was one thing: gold. But the gold wasn't mined in Kilwa. It was sourced from deep within the continent, from the legendary kingdom of Great Zimbabwe. Caravans would transport the precious metal hundreds of miles to the port of Sofala, in modern-day Mozambique. And from the 13th century onward, Kilwa controlled Sofala. By seizing this strategic port, Kilwa established a monopoly. Anyone who wanted the gold of southern Africa had to go through them. This strategic control turned Kilwa into the southern terminus of the vast Indian Ocean trade network. Gold, along with ivory, iron, and even rhinoceros horns, flowed out of its port. In return, a river of luxury goods flowed in. Imagine the docks of Kilwa, bustling with activity. Ships arriving from Arabia carrying glassware and dates. Dhows from Persia, unloading vibrant carpets and exquisite glazed porcelain. Junks from as far as Ming Dynasty China, bringing chests filled with lustrous silk and celadon ceramics. Spices from India and the Indonesian archipelago filled the air with the sense of cinnamon, cloves, and pepper. Kilwa wasn't just a passive middleman in this global exchange. It was an economic powerhouse in its own right, a testament to its commercial sophistication. The sultans of Kilwa began minting their own currency around the 12th century, first in copper and later in gold. These coins, stamped with the names of the ruling sultans, weren't just for local use. They were a stable and recognized currency across the entire Indian Ocean basin. Archaeologists have unearthed Kilwa coins as far away as Great Zimbabwe, Oman, and even in the Northern Territory of Australia. A mind-boggling testament to the sheer scale and reach of its commercial empire. This immense wealth transformed the very fabric of the city. While cities like London and Paris were largely collections of timber-framed houses and muddy streets, Kilwa was a city of stone. Its architects and masons used the abundant coral stone from the surrounding reefs, carving it into blocks and binding it with mortar to create structures of breathtaking beauty and scale. The elite lived in multi-story stone mansions, designed with internal courtyards to catch the ocean breeze. Many of these homes featured advanced amenities like sunken bathing wells and indoor plumbing, luxuries unheard of for the common person in Europe at the time. The crown jewel of Kilwa's architecture was the Great Mosque. Expanded and rebuilt over centuries, it became one of the largest mosques in sub-Saharan Africa. It wasn't just a single structure, but a complex of prayer halls, courtyards, and washing facilities. Its most stunning feature was its vaulted roof, supported by a forest of over 100 columns, some monolithic and octagonal, others carved from coral with intricate details. The roof itself was a marvel, dotted with domes, and inlaid with Chinese porcelain bowls that would glint in the sunlight. Imagine the faithful gathering for prayer under this magnificent canopy, the sound echoing through the stone halls. Even more impressive was the Husuni Kabwa, or the Great Fort, a sprawling palace complex built in the early 14th century by Sultan al-Hasan, Ibn Suleiman. This was no simple castle. Covering over 2 acres, it was a city within a city. Perched on a cliff overlooking the Indian Ocean, it contained over 100 rooms, including an audience court, guest wings, and vast storerooms to hold the city's trade goods. Its most famous feature was an octagonal swimming pool, fed by its own dedicated aqueduct. This wasn't just for leisure. It was a symbol of power, a statement of wealth so vast that water itself could be used for recreation. In 1331, the great Moroccan traveler Ibn Battuta, who journeyed more than any other explorer in pre-modern history, visited Kilwa. Having seen the great cities of the Middle East and India, he was not easily impressed. Yet he described Kilwa as one of the most beautiful and well-constructed cities in the world. He noted the elegance of its inhabitants and the generosity of its sultan, who was famous for his gifts to scholars and the poor. The elite of Kilwa, a sophisticated and cosmopolitan merchant class, lived a life of refined luxury. They were part of a unique cultural tapestry known as the Swahili civilization. The Swahili Coast was not a single unified kingdom. It was a network of independent but interconnected city-states, including Mombasa, Zanzibar, Lamu, and Mogadishu. What bound them together was a shared language, Kiswahili Bantu, language enriched with Arabic and Persian loanwords, and a shared religion, Islam. This was a culture born from the sea and from trade. It was a fusion of African, Arab, Persian, and Indian influences, creating a vibrant and distinct identity. The people were multilingual, expert sailors, and shrewd merchants who acted as the essential middlemen between the African interior and the wider world. Islam was woven into the fabric of daily life, but it blended with indigenous African traditions and beliefs, creating a unique local expression of the faith. For centuries, this system flourished. The monsoon winds were the highways of the Indian Ocean, and the Swahili merchants were their masters. But this golden age was not to last. The world was changing. Far away in Europe, a new power was stirring, one with its own ambitions for the riches of the East. In 1498, a Portuguese fleet led by Vasco da Gama rounded the Cape of Good Hope. Becoming the first Europeans to sail directly into the Indian Ocean, they were astonished by the wealth and sophistication they found on the Swahili coast. But they were not there to trade as equals, they were there to conquer. Armed with naval cannons and a ruthless determination to control the spice and gold trade, the Portuguese began a campaign of violent disruption. In 1505, a fleet commanded by Francisco de Almeida arrived at Kilwa. The Portuguese demanded tribute. When the Sultan hesitated, they attacked. The city, built for trade and not for naval warfare against cannon fire, was quickly overwhelmed. They sacked Kilwa, plundering its palaces and mosques, burning parts of the city, and killing many of its inhabitants. They built a fort to control the harbor and installed a puppet ruler. This single act shattered Kilwa's power. The Portuguese had bypassed the traditional middlemen. They disrupted the ancient trade routes that had sustained the Swahili coast for centuries, redirecting the flow of gold and ivory directly to their own ships. The monopoly was broken. Kilwa's economic foundation crumbled. Over the next few centuries, the city fell into a slow, irreversible decline. Its grand stone buildings were abandoned and fell into disrepair. The jungle, patient and relentless, began to creep back in, swallowing the palaces and mosques. By the 1800s, the once mighty capital of a trading empire was little more than a minor town, its glorious past forgotten, its ruins overgrown with vines and trees. When European explorers and archaeologists discovered the ruins in the 19th century, they were met with a profound sense of cognitive dissonance. They looked at the magnificent stone architecture, the scale of the great mosque, and the clear evidence of immense wealth, and they simply could not believe that it was the work of native Africans. Steeped in the racist ideologies of the colonial era, they concocted theories to explain it away. They claimed that the city must have been built by Arabs or Persians who had colonized the area, dismissing the local Swahili people as incapable of such achievements. This narrative, which deliberately erased African agency and ingenuity, persisted for decades. It was a convenient fiction that justified colonial rule by portraying Africa as a continent without history or civilization. But the stones themselves told a different story. Meticulous archaeological work in the 20th century has definitively proven these racist theories wrong. The evidence is overwhelming. The architectural styles, the construction techniques, the blend of Islamic and African motifs, and the Swahili inscriptions all point to a uniquely African civilization. One that absorbed foreign influences but was fundamentally indigenous in its development and achievements. Kilwa was not a foreign colony. It was the ultimate achievement of the Swahili people, showcasing their incredible culture and trade skills. Today, the ruins of Kilwa Kisiwani are a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a silent, haunting reminder of a lost golden age. Walking among the crumbling walls of the Husuni Kubwa Palace, or standing beneath the remaining arches of the Great Mosque, you can still feel the echoes of its former grandeur. You can almost hear the bustling markets, the call to prayer, and the multilingual chatter of merchants from across the known world. It stands as a powerful monument to a chapter of African history that was deliberately ignored and nearly lost forever. Kilwa was richer than Paris. It had international trade spanning 3 continents. It minted its own currency and created stunning palaces that even had swimming pools for some serious relaxation. Then Portugal destroyed it, and history forgot it.
Oh.
But now you know. Hit subscribe for more lost cities and erased histories. New videos 3 times a week. Kilwa. Remember that name?